First, I want to welcome you to the 5th IFX Expo International, the 9th overall, but the 5th. And a little trivia for you, little facts. The first IFX Expo I moderated at, I remember there was 30 booths and around 800 people. From what I see outside, there's about 110 booths, and 3,500 to 3,800 people have registered. How many show up, I don't know, but that's how many registered. So quite a significant increase within 5 years, or 4 years rather. Up on stage today, we have our panelists. They're going to represent some payment solution companies. Many of you probably already know some of them. They're your payment solutions provider, and you're here giving them support. Or if not, maybe you'll meet a new one today. Now, how I run our panels is a little bit different than most, is there are 4 panelists up there. You in the audience are the 5th. I will ask you questions, you will answer, or you will ask questions, and we'll answer. You're the benefactor here in the panels. Everything they're going to talk about is for your benefit only. They're not up there to give commercials about their companies. They're up there to answer your questions and give you information that you can value. So to get started here, we're going to talk about future of payments, some trends. I'm going to ask some questions. We're just going to chat back and forth and discuss. So the first question today, actually, let's start off with this. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, guys.
Which company you represent.
Yep.
And a 15-second commercial about your company.
Ooh, only 15? Come on.
15 seconds, go.
All right. I'm Michael, and I'm from ECOMMPAY. We are on booth number 14, and we specialize in payments both of acquiring. Now we're a principal member of Visa, MasterCard. And we also have a specialized company in the group, which is for e-wallet services. So it takes 2 of the industries to combine into a whole package for acquiring it, more or less.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Aaron Gladman from INTERCASH. We're a global payment specialist with a core focus in prepaid card issuing. We issue MasterCard cards around the world and around the globe with multiple issuing banks. And specifically in the Forex space, we help brokers give confidence and accessibility of traders' funds to them via a prepaid card customized solution. Come visit us at booth 33 if you want to find out more.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ugne. I represent today CARDPAY. CARDPAY is actually located here in Cyprus with our headquarters. We are a principal member of Visa and MasterCard, and also UnionPay International. We have a wide variety for solutions for all types of clients, and we operate in this business for already six years. If you want to find out a little bit more about us, you can come to our booth 86 today.
Sharon Franko, EMS Card Services, a Dutch acquirer in the Netherlands, owned by First Data and ABN AMRO Bank. We do a point of sale and e-com as well. Come see us at booth 43.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's start off with the first most generic question we could possibly ask, which is, what is your take on the future of payments within the retail finance sector? Whoever wants to take that first. What's the future look like? I know we chatted a little while earlier, and you said it's more question marks than answers.
Yeah, and actually that's true. It's no longer the industry that we used to know. I mean, we even have now the new directive for, and just to set the record straight, retail and financial instruments is a totally different market and 2 totally different ways of acquiring.
Okay.
So even in our case, for acquiring, you could say there's 2 different risk profiles for each one. But more specifically for the financial instruments, and I'm sure that most of the people here know it, one of the biggest problems that we have now, it's the MasterCard new brand directive, which is more restrictive when it comes to trading into Asia region and specifically Japan. So the online acquiring and payments is really, the map is changing. It's no longer as simple or as easy as it used to be. Before there used to be structures and just European management companies and having payments going through. I mean, it's no secret anymore. That's how it was all done before. but this is no longer working. And
So it's a regulatory shift?
yes, it's a regulatory. I mean, everything is becoming more strict. We have the PSD2 directive now, which is hitting all the acquirers. We have the MiFID II directive, which is hitting all the financial instruments. There's so much reporting going around. Companies have to declare eventually they're going to have to declare who their IBs are. They're going to even have restrictions in passporting. So all of these combined together with the new stronger regulations that come in from the payment schemes, Visa and MasterCard, are changing the map. So acquiring, as we used to know it from Visa and MasterCard or any other payment scheme, is no longer a holistic solution for any trading company.
And just to build on that, as regulation gets tighter and payments with the new directives become a little bit more stringent, what becomes really important is alternative payments and different unique methods for acquiring and paying out funds. This could be e-wallets, this can be automated payment kiosks. Creativity is really what's going to help the industry in the future and turn away a little bit from traditional payment methods of regular credit card acquiring and stuff like that. Additionally, look at how the world works today, just from an acquisition perspective. When you go to the airport, what are you doing? You don't necessarily talk to a person anymore. You print out your luggage tags and your baggage tags at a kiosk, at a machine. Even when you can go to McDonald's, you can order your whole entire meal now just in front of a terminal. So I think just the way that people get into the space and the way that people approach, whether it's opening a Forex account or making a payment, is going to be in an automated and much more technology advanced and less personalized approach.
So I'm a marketing dork, I'm not a payments solutions expert. So what I heard is no longer can brokers or retail finance institutions rely on the old bread and butter Visa and MasterCard. They have to look for a payment solutions provider that has more breadth of e-wallets or other alternative solutions. This is correct?
Yes, absolutely. I would actually like to build a little bit on this. First of all, for future of payments, the financial companies need to look at an overall strategy for their payments. So meaning that yes, they cannot rely just on bread and butter and cards, so they actually have to encompass their strategy into their payment strategy as well. So having the solutions for each of the specific region that they're targeting will make them more competitive. It will basically sustain their business for longer. And I think it's just the future in general.
So help me understand that. So if I'm going to target, I don't know, we talked about Japan earlier, yes? I want to target Japan. What is my solution for that?
For Japan, well, as we covered actually before in the conversation, it's a little bit difficult. It's getting difficult, but there are payment solutions that are coming up more and more, and you have to look also not only specifically targeting, a specific country. You also have to look at outside, because only the companies that will work globally, they will be able to survive.
Okay, as a marketing guy, I'm going to push my marketing spend and optimize to what's converting. Yes? Converting via click and payment. So it's very, very important for me to understand that even though I'm pushing a bunch of money in, let's say, Japan, and everybody's clicking on it, and everybody really likes my banner, for generic terms, but I can't clear that credit card, I'm just wasting my money, yes?
Well, look, I think what's really important and a good piece of advice for everybody is that when you're entering a market or you even decide to take traders or customers for a specific market, not to burn that market and not to burn that user that you paid so much and worked so hard to acquire, is to do the right research. How are people paying there? What's acceptable in that market? Go there, go through the experience, and really understand what works in that market and the way
maybe
people
it's not
behave.
worth it, actually.
Say
Maybe
again?
it's not worth it. Maybe it's worth actually spending that investment on converting clients somewhere else, or actually having a global structure where you will have more options and more solutions for each specific country.
So as a broker, where my average CPA is, 1,000 euros nowadays, yeah, give or take, depending on the region, I have to sit down with my payment solutions provider and say, this is where I want to focus. Can you help me?
Absolutely.
And if you can't, I can go to him or to her, yes? Is that how it works?
I think this is exactly how it works. And
Any
in
questions?
general,
All right, panel's over, because I think we just solved Elder's
Well, look,
solution.
as long as your focus is to actually, make revenues and get money from these people, then I think it's only part of a normal due diligence you do, that when you're going to go market to a market, that you know that you can actually capitalize on that. And in our business, the way you capitalize is by having a way to, having a physical stream of way to make revenues and how to take funds from customers. It's pretty straightforward.
I think all the sector is kind of changing because from being really, really gray and Wild West, that every broker, you know, like just woke up in the morning and said, I want to have my own brokerage.
Believe it or not, that still happens. That was asked at least 5 times last night.
It's becoming really, really different and really, really difficult to get approved by the most reputable acquirers. But also from a trader perspective, I think it's really, really important to have the most reputable acquirer, because then you have the reputation as a broker. And you don't have, you know, like a lot of scams over the net, which is very difficult afterwards to cover and to change. So that's important.
Exactly. Basically, screen your payment service provider before you go into any contractual agreements, because I mean, it's this industry has been going on for forever, and we know that there are, you know, companies that do not survive, and there are companies that are not very good to work with. So before actually choosing a payment service provider, make your checks, make your sort of homework, and see who is the best one to work with.
I know, you know, I've been around in this industry for a little while. Actually, my birth date is the same as what that company was established in. I remember back in 2006, we were all happy that we could just take credit cards online.
Okay, look, at least this is the way now things are working. In the beginning, when it all started with payments and people were getting involved into it, the biggest part of the development, whether that was payments or financial instruments, which they are interrelated more or less, it was all about IT, it was all about technology. Now, we have, the industry has become so fragmented. New companies, financial brokers, financial instruments, binary options, forexes, they're just sprouting out like mushrooms. So now everything is turning onto compliance. So the position, the driver's position that was one held by the IT and the infrastructure of technology is now by compliance. Why am I saying this? It's by compliance because the authorities and the regulators are seeing things much more stringent. Everything is more strict, whether that's for payment systems, payments providers, payment schemes, or financial instruments. So each jurisdiction now has their own license. Even the European Union is no longer in agreement under the ESMA authority of how the financial instruments will be progressing in the future. They're putting the MiFID II now, which is actually going to restrict passporting if you have high chargebacks, if you have problems, and all of these problems derive from your payment provider if you're not doing a good job. So it's not that simple anymore. We used to have before the gray jurisdictions, which were Seychelles and BVIs, just for banking, or the exotic ones, let's say. Now, even these ones are considered to be exotic and tropical for financial instruments. So can these licenses then be applied into Europe today? Or can we do it through a structure and have it? I don't think if you even go to any payment provider and tell them, you know, guys, I want you to give me a solution to enter this market. Yeah, but do you have the license to enter that market? Are you going to enter that market, spike, and exit? I mean, we've seen...
So that's a good point. So you're talking, it's not about the technology anymore. You're now consulting the brokers on asking these questions before they actually go.
It's about licensing and compliance now. That's where it all comes. Even, I'm sure that a lot of the regulated financial instruments, they know now that even with their clients' accounts and their banking accounts, they do have problems when they have high incomes or high outcomes of money. They're getting questioned, they're being interrogated, they're being interviewed about things that are happening. So it's not just about the payments anymore. I think that according to what we're seeing lately, we've had this really big growth in the industry of financial instruments and payments, but now we're experiencing the middle ages of what's next. It's the middle ages of payments and technology and legislation. I mean, everybody's just lingering and not sure what the next step is.
Okay, thank you.
Brokers, we all experience that probably, that they complain how the process are like a nightmare to them and that it takes such a long time to get approved, while probably in the past it was much faster, much easier. But I think on an overall basis, if you want to have a business for a long run, you should go for the trusted and solid institutions, and it pays off in the long run.
Is it the same for binary options and Forex, or is there difference?
It's two different regulations. At least in Cyprus, they're all under CISEC, but
I mean, from a payment solutions.
even by the payment schemes, they're considered to be of different risk profiles.
Okay. Anything to add?
I was just going to add that, just to sort of comment on what you said, which is important, that I don't feel like compliance has taken necessarily a pure hierarchy jump, and it's the forefront. I think that because payments are so important, we're like the gatekeepers to a lot of people's businesses. If they can't make payments, they can't receive money, they can't pay out money, they can't operate. So I think us in the payment sector are just becoming a little bit more responsible to say regulation is on the payment side, because the activities of the business are now sort of being advised and reviewed by the payment people, because we're the people who are helping the brokers, the Forex, the binary options actually get into that business. So we feel there's a very tight importance on compliance, and it's just I wouldn't say odd, but I'd say timely to see that it feels like there's more compliance and regulation on the payment aspect than on the actual business of the Forex. So that's why a lot of brokers might feel a little bit of resistance and feel a little bit of pressure. Like she said, it's very hard to get her. The process is a nightmare, but it's really just to protect everybody at the end of the day. And the payment people doing that type of job is actually, helping everything down the line in terms of making that brokerage sustainable.
Okay, fair enough. Though there is a big issue now, as you're aware, with correspondent banking and Nostra accounts between banks. So compliance at the end of the day.
I'm sorry, what does that mean? Say again.
Okay, the banks now are doing a communication. Okay, let's take it from the beginning. We're changing the whole map of how payments are done. So all the financial instruments are looking for alternative ways of entering new markets and going through regulation or below regulation until they build a backbone and then they enter regulation. I mean, more or less that's the normal pattern that is followed. Now, while doing this, they're shifting away from Visa, MasterCard into other solutions. One of the solutions, excluding the APMs or APS, alternative payment methods, which is what we know as e-wallets, is we're going back in time. We're going back to wire transfers. So people are now reestablishing and using it. People from the financial instruments, they're reusing again the SWIFT and the SEPA payments for both incoming and outgoing funds. And this, unfortunately, has not gone out of the microscope of the authorities. So each bank, when they do the SWIFT accounts between them, they have Vostro Nostro accounts between them, and they have currencies and the correspondent banks. The correspondent banks, at the end of the day, they are the ones which do the whole communication between the banks or the member banks of each jurisdiction. Now, in this case, when we have a Forex company, let's say, financial instrument that is trying to make a payment out for a customer or towards a company, they're getting correspondent banking in the middle. And those banks which are doing this now, they're being hit. They're being closed down. I mean, we've had big names and big companies that are losing the correspondence banking because of this. So even the solution of SWIFT now is having problems. But it is, I believe, the way forward once we, the payment systems, the payment providers, enter this game. We can be the game changer to this. This is actually what I believe is going to be, at the end of the day, the future of payments. You go to a payment specialist, to your company, and your company is going to tell you, okay, based on the jurisdictions you want to go, these are the e-wallets that work in these countries. But payment schemes, Visa, MasterCard, not very popular. On the other hand, regulation won't allow you to do these transactions. So let's use wire payments. Let's use SWIFT payments. If you're in Europe, let's use SEPA payments. But then that payment institution needs to have its own memberships into those institutions, which is SWIFT or SEPA at the end of the day. So if you don't have everything into one package, you're losing it. I mean, even the guys at EMS, which have FD behind them, I know they're aware of this scheme as well, and that's where it's all being developed. But it's all about having everything in one house, under one roof. So you need a payment provider that's it's not enough just being a principal member of Visa MasterCard. That needs to be able to do omnibus accounts, slave accounts, so you can execute SWIFT, SEPA, e-wallets, or payment schemes. At least that's how I see it at the end of the day.
I would like to relate to another. I would like to relate to another topic, which is how you choose your payment service provider, and maybe in the past, and this is something that I would like to emphasize, and I think it's very, very important. In the past, you would just look for a solution, just accept credit cards or like any other payment methods, and that's it. Today, I think it's not just important to know who your PSP is, but also who the acquirers behind the PSP, because there are many, many, I would say even some exotic acquirers that you might have problems in the past, or there are some PSPs that are not really transparent about who are the acquirers behind them. And this is very, very important because for the long run, you might have problems with both Visa and MasterCard, and it will be very, very difficult to change.
Does anyone have any questions? Please. Can we get a microphone to the gentleman over here, please? Hurry up, take a sip of water. Thank you.
Oh yeah, we know your voice. It's a loud one.
We're also EMS, but I'm not necessarily a question for actually all four of you. So you're welcome to take any of them. This is, obviously I recognize this conversation. It's something that we in the payments industry are care very much about. But maybe some soul searching So to any one of you, does the client, does the consumer, whether it's an end consumer or a business, do they actually care? Or do they just think a payment is a payment, and whether this is card or an APM or by SWIFT,
I just to jump in there, I do think they care, and I think they care depending on what type of payment method they're using. I think when it comes to Visa and MasterCard credit card, they care, but they care in the way that they made that selection, they made their choice when they decided which bank to go to apply for that credit card or debit card to. It's a little bit different on the other side when it's not a credit card. I think they care even more because there's that element of a little bit of unknown, trustworthiness. If they're using a new company that's not a high street bank, I think they definitely care, and it's a very selective process when somebody says, I'm going to sign up for that e-wallet because that's my only other method because my credit card's not being accepted now. And I think as long as that payment method shows a little bit of trust in them or gives people the confidence that they can access their funds when they need to, I think that that's enough to get somebody to choose an alternative payment method. And I think they definitely do put thought into that. I know that if I was using a payment method that looks something new, not your typical Visa, MasterCard, or high street bank, you do ask those questions to yourself as a consumer.
I completely agree. To be honest, I'm looking from this perspective as a user myself for internet commerce. The fact is, when you're there, that means that you make the decision to be there and to make that payment. So of course you care how you're going to pay, whether it's going to be a card, or whether maybe it is easier for you at that point to pay with a wallet because you don't have your card with you. Maybe it's just much easier for you to enter the email address or your ID and to just make that payment. Because at that given moment, you already made the decision to be there. So the payment part, of course, is very important because you want the service or either the item. So I think from the client, from the end user's perspective, it's very important, and they do care.
Also, shoving a payment option into a consumer's face without multiple options, I think could also be a very dangerous thing. It's making that assumption that they don't care, and that could be a very dangerous one. And I think options and trust is a really important point that consumers need to have when choosing a new payment method, because whatever they're trying to use or have or don't have isn't working. So I think it would be a mistake to assume that let this guy deposit like this and he'll be happy with it just because he could get his money in. I think it's something that definitely needs to be sugar-coated for them and given the right information.
It's not also about sugarcoating. I think it's also about the fact that any type of business, they know which clients and which markets they're targeting. So when they are preparing the actual payment page, they already need to prepare it. maybe by geolocation, so when the client actually comes to the payment page, they already have the solutions and the payment options that are available for him for this specific region. So maybe they're coming from Latin America, they want to use Boleto or something specific. So at that point where they are redirected for the payment, they already have to be given this choice. So if a company and a business is not ready and not equipped for this, then they might lose the client because let's say that they don't have any other payment method apart from Boleto.
I wouldn't actually use the word care. Because, you know, well, care, okay, a trader, he's on the website, he's trying to care on what method they're using. Well, it depends where they come from. It depends on the jurisdiction. So we do have jurisdictions that they sincerely care about trading, and they're actually going to do opening of positions and trading, and they want to go and have the whole experience of investing in financial instruments. But then we have jurisdictions, which I'm sure most of the brokers are aware of them, which the first thing is, okay, I'm going to spend my time and do some trading. And when I do some trading and I finally lose some money, I'm going to pull a chargeback, a really big one. And there's companies soliciting me all around the country on how to do this chargeback. So at the end of the day, it depends on the trends, it depends on the fragmentation of the market, and it depends on the habits. If you go to the Scandinavian countries, they're using a specific e-wallet like crazy lately. So if you put Visa, MasterCard, or a payment scheme next to it, and then you put the e-wallet solution, you know, they're just going to go straight on that e-wallet solution, which is it's relatively a young one. It's not that established in the market. If you go even further down to Thailand, they're using something totally unregulated to do their payments and has no representation of their rights whatsoever. So care is not the word. Maybe, you know, it depends on the trends of the country and the jurisdiction at the end of the day.
Actually, touching a little bit more about the subject of chargebacks. Yes, chargebacks do happen, but when choosing actually a service provider, you need to make sure that this option of 3D Secure is provided to you, because from our tendency and from our experience and from our clients' experience, we see a huge increase in 3D enrolled cards. So if you basically have this option to process 3D Secure payments, you will be protected against chargebacks, at least to the point of where you can.
At least to the point of arbitration and representation. But then again, based on the payment schemes, if you dig deep into the regulation, you have the problem of being hot triggered, of being influenced, of having aggressive marketing. I mean, now the ESMA authorities, they're fighting aggressive marketing like crazy. So, because, you know, you've got these call centers coming in, calling, saying, do trade. And they get in, they do their payments, they use CVV, they use 3D Secure, they use KYC, KYCC, you name it.
Well,
but then again, chargeback is chargeback.
Yeah, well, this is where we're coming back to the representment of chargeback. So basically, also choose a provider that will actually work on this, that will not leave you hanging when the chargeback comes.
That is true.
And maybe you're on an aggregated channel that they really don't care and they won't fight the chargeback. So this is another thing that for future brokers and for existing ones to think about.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. One last question, and I'm going to make it a very generic one, so it'll last until 10:30. Huh? All right. What are the biggest growing regions for payments in your experience with this sector, starting from the end?
So,
You want me to repeat the question?
sorry?
You want me to repeat it?
No.
Okay.
I'm fine. With us, it's very simple because we don't touch any unregulated markets. So if there is a license there, it's fine. If not, we won't take it.
Give me an example.
Japan.
Japan.
Recently.
So you don't touch Japan at all?
No,
Okay.
unless there will be a different instruction by the schemes. But
Regulated
we won't.
markets only.
Regulated markets only.
Got it. And
You can, she's right, you don't touch it if you don't have a broker who's regulated, but there is regulation in Japan. So if they're regulated, I'm sure they can provide a solution at the end of the day.
okay.
Yeah, if they have a license.
Next. Same question.
If talking in general about us...
What's the biggest growing region? Sorry, got to go back to you because you didn't...
Okay, I think that the biggest growing region for sure is Southeast Asia, just in general.
Southeast Asia.
Because...
Is this including China?
Including
Yes,
China, of
including
course. We can talk about China, I think, as a separate subject.
I think it's a separate entity,
all
yeah.
together. But just looking into the history of Southeast Asia and how fast the development is going, and actually development of cards as well, because cards some time ago were not really that available, and more people are having this payment method. And we see from our experience that there is a huge adoption of cards in Southeast Asia, and the number just keeps on growing all the time.
Okay. I believe, I look at China as the generation that's growing up in China now is the generation of choice. They're the first generation in China in a long, long time to have choice. They're not told what to wear, they're not told what to eat, they're not told what to work and what kind of car to have, if they could even have a car. Now they have all kinds of choices. You see Chinese kids going down the street in Detroit baseball hats and skateboards. So, and they're making money now, yes? And more and more are acquiring credit cards, and they're very affluent online, yes? They leapfrog the entire Western continent.
Absolutely. Actually, I would like to add that China, standalone, has issued more cards than whole Europe together. So that shows you how big the actual market is. And mind you that this is only about 20% of all of the population of China.
Okay.
So you need to understand that where this sort of growth spurt will come
So
from.
Southeast China is a very big place, and there's a lot of people that live in that area. I mean, if we put a dot around Indonesia and you draw a circle, 73% of the entire planet's population is within that circle, right? What area specifically is the fastest growing? Would it be China, or would it be Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore?
Well, I think there's one interesting fact about this region in particular is that there are actually talks of having a combined Asian state, something very similar to European Union. So I think that in collaboration, if they do actually make this state, it will mean that this market will open up significantly and it will be much easier to operate in general.
So today, do you offer a solution for China?
Of course, we're actually a UnionPay International principal member, meaning that we have all the regulation and everything in place to provide China UnionPay solutions for our clients.
Would it be safe to say all of you do? Yeah. Yes?
China UnionPay, yes, it is something that is used widely, and they're actually now trying to enter the European Union as well. So there is a lot of competition between the payment schemes, Visa, MasterCard versus China UnionPay, because now they're trying to penetrate the European market and make European citizens China UnionPay holders, card holders, or account holders. But in terms of which areas are growing the most, okay, yeah, sure, China is big, or I would say it's a region, it's the APAC region at the end of the day. And each Forex or binary offshore financial instrument company, they have their own strategy. You have companies which are really investing in China and being hit by robotics and eventually crash down. And then you have companies which have a lot of IBs and introductions into Thailand, and they're growing over there. And it's quite an organic and good market at the moment. So it's not necessarily what's growing in the payments industry, it's also growing in the financial instruments industry, because these guys here, this event, which is for the financial instruments, they're the ones building the market. So they're the ones educating the people in the APAC region, which by default I would say yes, the APAC region is the future of the financial instruments, because the European market is already fragmented. There's a lot of providers. There's a lot of financial instruments trading provided by the banks directly, at least to high net worth individuals. So they're aiming towards that direction, which is actually educating the market at the end of the day.
But earlier we said in the past it was the brokers were dictating the regions to focus on it, and payment solutions was just an afterthought. Now it's shifted to payment solutions has to be leading the brokers into this. Isn't that what we just discussed?
No.
I think it's generally about a strategy for a broker. So you just cannot come in and say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this. You have to think ahead whether you will be able to do it, whether you will have a sustainable business out of it. So if you just go head first and not think about all of the cycle, so the actual solutions for your brokers, the payments, you will not be able to survive. It's full stop.
I understand that. I
There
understand.
are a lot of companies that don't take this into account, and they don't survive.
I don't think it's the payment companies necessarily that are leading them into the markets. I think they have a focus and they have a vision, but often ask a question like, where can you provide payments to? Oh, you can provide payments in Thailand? All right, well then let's try to market there. So it's a little bit of a push and pull, and it's both ways. But just to jump back to the original question, I think these guys and ladies covered really Asia, which is a big talk and a big discussion and a big focus. But just to add a little question to that is, what's next? What's after that?
Okay.
And I think maybe we look at Africa. Definitely the Middle East is a huge growth. And a very difficult place for payments because it's quite ring-fenced and closed off, a lot of those regions.
Africa's a big place.
I was talking about the Middle East, actually. But
Okay.
I just say Africa just to spark some interest because there's not a lot of talk at all about Forex in Africa, and there's probably good reasons for it. But you see in the payment sector, more in the micropayments, a lot of discussion and looking into Africa and how we cater to this region because technology is not that good there. It's in a major growth phase. People deal a lot with cash, so it's an interesting market for the payments people. And I think eventually, when a lot of new forex brokerages come up and as the regions get more saturated, people are going to start looking to new countries to do it, and it may just be micro trading that caters to those different markets.
Actually, I would like to add something. Yes, the idea of having some exotic countries might sound, a good point, but from a payment service provider perspective, we always look at the security of our clients, okay? So meaning if we cannot find a solution that will be good and sustainable and risk-free or minimum risk, we will not provide it. So in terms of, Africa and all of these countries, yes, maybe in the future there will be a way to have a solution that we would be able to offer, but that time has to come, and there's a lot of things that have to happen behind it. So we're not only looking at the fact just providing it, we're actually looking at the fact that how we can do it and seamlessly without any sort of detrimental cost to the business.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much. Our panel's concluded, but I want you to leave them with your name and your booth number so they can come and meet you. Your name, company name, and booth.
Booth lucky number 14. I'm Michael from ECOMMPAY, and I'm more than pleased to see you there and answer 20 questions. Thanks.
Aaron Gladman from INTERCASH, and we're at booth Lucky 33. So feel free to join us if you're interested.
Since all the booths are lucky, so mine is 86. And as I think you already know, I represent CARDPAY, and I will be more than happy to see you at the booth, and my name is Ugne.
My name is Sharon, EMS, and booth number 43, and you're all welcome because it's the first time that we exhibit at the IFX, so we are all excited.
Well, thank you very much. Give them a round of applause.